A bit of mystery unboxing here. I've ordered a few things recently, I want to say recently in the last few months, and I just haven't had much time to open things. And now I've forgotten what I've ordered, which is a little bit reckless really, isn't it? But let's see. It's well packed. Ooh, Sony WM-EX57. Wow, someone's left me a cassette. Not really my thing, but you never know. It's obviously been in the home of someone a few years older than myself. Battery compartment, not too shabby. Well, that's interesting. It's got a separate remote in here, remote plug, that's away from the actual headphone socket. And I've not really seen one like that before on anything of mine. Not on a Sony anyway. It's a little bit bigger than some of the Panasonics that set size like this. A little bit chunkier, I would say. But made in Japan, Mega Bass, Dolby, different tapes, normal, chrome, metal even. Wow. It's got AMS, so that's the music search, isn't it? Automatic music search. Takes one AA battery, as we could see in there. I don't think there's anywhere for it to have a additional one. Well, this is quite a decent player, isn't it? There's mode on here, so this is stop at the end or keep playing, so auto reverse. Blank skip, that's all to do with the search mode as well, isn't it? So does it look like it's ever been taken apart? Screws look intact, don't they? Oh, this one I don't know. Is that a bit shiny? Okay, let's put a battery in then. I've got a battery I can use from a mini disc player, as I know it's got power, so I will use that one. So that's a alkaline battery. That's in. No headphones, so I'm going to have to source my own, but that's fine. And holders off. Dead as a dead. I suppose we've got to be sure though the battery is making contact. Expect even if it was dead, it would be doing something. Might give this a little bit of a scratch. This is just a minor. We won't use any cleaning fluid on here like alcohol. Scratching just enough to give us anything. Now the other thing I could do is, there is a adapter there. I think I've got some Sony adapters knocking around. Let's go and get one of those. So I can't locate my adapter at the moment. I don't want to give it too much juice. So I will just dive in and take it apart, because that way I can at least check if there's power from the battery reaching the circuit. I'm going to take these screws out first. I have to tap these out. So two there, and it looks like there's two here to take out. That's the 4 screws out. Just check inside there. That looks fine actually. Complete. These aren't going to pop off. That's fine. Ooh. A little bit of green just came out there, and that was around the battery side here. Just close that up. So I think we can see the issue here. We may have had a leak in battery and it may have caused damage, or possibly there's some water damage instead. I have to get my extra pair of glasses on here to have a closer inspection. That does look bad. It's lifted up from the circuit board. But having said that, this is the power point at this end. So that's the negative going into there, positive just going into there. So that looks okay. So I wonder if there's any more water damage. There was a little bit on there. About, yeah. Well, I knew that would probably need changing it if it did work. But we obviously want to hear it well, don't we? These are the little switches here that go through to the back of the case. So how much corrosion, how much damage has been caused this end. So the board's held down okay. Toshiba chip there. Looks like it was used in other models. 53, the 57 and the 59. Before I push that down, it's got that kind of leaky battery smell around here. I'm just going to give that a very gentle clean up. The problem is, it's obviously lifted up slightly here. Was I expecting power at this end as well? Quite possibly. Yeah, and there's some tracks that kind of run along here. It may be damaged. Might need reconstructing. First things first, give it a bit of a clean. It's always a risk when you get that. When you buy anything not working. It could be straightforward, like I was lucky with the Sharp mini disc player that I bought recently, because that enabled me to fix it really just by putting some soldering wool where the contact had been. I guess looking at this, if this is beyond any type of salvage, then I could take this spring out here and put that into the Sharp mini display, but I just want to understand really the damage. Obviously there's stuff underneath here that might have been affected. I don't really want to be too rough. If I move a component off, then I'm in trouble. My little one here, for instance, just dose it with a... Oh, I'm going to do that in view, full view. So just cleaning the board here. It may have just been not a melting point as such, but yeah, it might have just been a place for it to attach, not actually doing anything at that point. It's probably more likely that there's an issue in here around this component. Fortunately, you can see what came off there in my hand. Bit of metal that would have been underneath that. Interesting. Now, the thing to do in a minute is to get the multimeter on here with the battery in and just try not to damage it too much. So, did that actually need to be on there for a reason? Seems to have. So at the present time, it's just taken some dye off there, I think, in that corner. At the present time, I probably don't want to take this board off. Well, the board can come out if there's no response when I put the battery back in. Potentially that battery, that contact there might need a bit of work. Must just be a bit gentle. It's quite a hefty spring because sometimes when you get corrosion, the spring is broken down quite quickly. It snaps. And this one seems to be a bit hefty. Nothing much coming off here. Probably need to use a file. I would say that this is cleaned up reasonably well now. I think enough for the battery anyway to make better contact, and for me to put the multimeter on at this end just to make sure we've got power. That's around battery. Now, does it need a cassette in there to register? Probably doesn't. Let's stick that old one back in there. So that goes in like that. So the actual cassette head is in the hinge area. That's not doing anything. Let's get the multimeter on this end. So I've just checked this end and then the two connections on the board for the power, and all seems fine in terms of we're getting a voltage here. We're getting about 1.5 volts, which is what we would expect. So the battery is registering, and you can't see because of my hand, but yeah, that's fine. 149, 1.49. So we know power is arriving here. A mark on there. Just wondering if now the other thing I could do in a minute is just reseat this cable. So this one here is for the lid. Lid has the buttons. That's right. So it's that fine. It's quite fine actually. It's this cable here goes into here. There's a bit of a but perhaps the whole thing's been dropped in water. I'm sure if it had been, it would look more messy than this. So there seems to be a clip on there. Not seen a connector like that on these. It just pushed in. I've just had a look under the connector. I've not pulled this out. You can see, possibly in the video, that it's a little green in there, which is obviously a bad sign. This connector does seem to slide off. Maybe it just slides off enough to let you take that off. Ooh, there you go. So it slides on. Good job I didn't bend it. Look at that. Ooh, looks quite serious. I don't think it was actually stuck on with glue, do you, from Sony? I can't believe it was. Alright, let's give that a bit of a clean. Take the battery out as well. I've cleaned this up best that I can, and I've checked the continuity on the connector that I've cleaned, so that does look okay. That's as well as I could clean it up, and they look reasonable in there. I think it's a case of just putting this back in again and seeing if it's quite a funky little connector, that connector I should say. So this basically slides on with the cable at the same time, and then it kind of clips in place. So you start from this end and then move along. So we know the bout's looking a bit dicey. I've got a few of those I can try. Has it made any difference? No. I suppose the bad sign is there was a lot of water damage. Fixing that connector may not be quite enough. I'll probably have to pop this board out, try to look on the other side. Like, if someone has got one of these, they can take the cover off and just check this top corner here. Tell me if I'm missing anything. Maybe I should Google online actually and just see if I need to be making a link across for power. There's a ground there. Sometimes as well, if they haven't been taken apart, they've got plastic on as well, just to kind of protect the components. So it's possible that someone has had this apart. They've tried to fix it. I managed to take 2 of the 3 screws out. Unfortunately, this one became rounded and I had to push it out from the side where the cassette goes in, but it wasn't too bad. So you can see the screws kind of still in there. But what it enables us to do is just have a quick look. This is how you would change the bout. So you'd have to kind of take the PCB board off as far as this goes, because this is going into the motor here, and then you can change your bout. So that's one thing that you can do. So yeah, it doesn't look particularly bad underneath. Most of the components, well, I would say all of the components are on this side of the board. I'll have a closer look in this area with the board switched over. I will put a new bout on this though, because even if it tried to spin, it's not going to have enough traction in that bout to drive it. So maybe that is an issue with it as well. There's my very fine bout pack, ordered from China. There's a lot in there. It must be something that fits. One of the larger bouts in that pack fitted, so we can turn the motor and it's turning everything else. So hopefully it's not too tight. It doesn't feel like it is. This little connector here, which is soldered to the back of this board, unfortunately just came away, and I didn't put much pressure on it at all. It's this connector here, so don't think I'm going to even try to solder that. I've got a hot sort of iron I could use, but I'll do more damage, and I'm just going to try to glue it back in place. And if it still seems dead, then it's obviously a no-go, this Walkman, and I can take this bout back off and use it on another one. I've super glued this connector back on. Now I don't know if there's too much glue on it now and whether or not I can get the ribbon to go in, but we'll see. I'll leave it now for a couple of hours just to make sure that it's set. I may have done something to make this now start to attempt to work. That's pressing play. It's not happy with that bout that I put on, but it is whirling into life somewhat. So the only thing I've done is I've glued this connector on. I've obviously cleaned up this connector here, just generally cleaned around a little bit. But that is all so far. So I'm going to try a tighter bout. I think I still have a bout issue. I've put a new bout on, but I don't think it can handle the kind of torque. So if I press play, there is a cassette in there as well. Not the original one, a different one, just to make sure that that cassette isn't too wound up tight. Now this I think is fundamental to the repair, the fact that I've glued this on. This would be my recommended way if you've got a similar Sony Walkman to this, because you don't want to be pulling this out of the connector too many times anyway, because you might lose that connector. There's quite a nice long ribbon on that, which does allow you to just disconnect the one ribbon there and get access to the drive bout. So that's what I would recommend to do. There's also some test points I think on that ribbon cable as well. Now I've put a different bout on that didn't come from this original packet. I've got a couple of bouts left over from a dedicated bag of Sony bouts, so there you go. They seem to be a little bit more torquey, so I'm hoping that the one I've put on is the right one. Moment of truth, will this work? Okay, wow, that's the difference having a decent bout makes. Let's just check. Obviously not screwed in. Definitely is powering that tape. Let's get the back on. It's stopped there though, it might be the end of the tape. Let's get the back on. I'm not going to put the screws on yet, and see if I've got any sound. Well, this video has been a partial success. I've managed to get a otherwise dead Walkman to start playing again, and as you can see, it is playing the tape. What I don't have is any audio. I've got very, very quiet kind of bleeping sounds that you can hear through the headphones when it's plugged in, but there's no audio coming through at all, so that could be a different fault entirely. We know that this has probably had either corrosion from the battery or it's had some water damage to it as well. So I think that's a fair attempt at a repair. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. I hope that just by having this taken apart, it maybe gave some of you guys an idea on how to go about changing bouts and the things to kind of check for on similar models to this. And I'll do some more videos in the future. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.